I feel like Matt LaFleur is the most underrated, underappreciated, and disrespected head coach in the National Football League right now.
I'm not mad at that.
There, I said it. Feels good to
Hmm.
get it off my chest. I'm gonna get into why. First things first. Let's debunk something immediately. Um, the the Super Bowl conversation needs to be done when we talk about coach and quarterback. Now, I know a lot of people I lost a lot of people with that already. When we talk about elite quarterbacks in this league, Matt, Patrick Mahomes has 3 rings. Lamar has 0 rings. Josh Allen has 0 rings. Joe Burrow has 0 rings. Matt Stafford has 1. CJ has 0. Jared Goff has 0. You go down the list, right? When we talk about head coaches, Doug Peterson is an older guy. He has 1. Mike Tomlin is an older guy, an older coach. He has 1. John Harbaugh has 1. Sean McVay, 1. Kyle Shanahan, 0. Mike McDaniels, 0. We go down Dan Campbell, 0. We go down the list of these coaches and these quarterbacks, and just like you, I like the barbershop conversation of, well, he ain't won the ring, he ain't won the ring, he ain't won the big one, until he gets the monkey off his back. And I understand it, and for years I bought into it. But the reality is, Andy Reid is the only active coach right now who's got a gauntlet of rings, and he didn't win them boys until he was in his 60s. So I don't want to hear this talk about no Super Bowl. You don't crack my list as a legitimate top end head coach or quarterback. It's bullshit. That conversation needs to go away with the boomers. It's not a real conversation. Only a couple guys have rings, and frankly, they're all older coaches except for Sean McVay. So that's my first part of the rant. Where do you stand on that?
Church, baby. I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, what are you gonna, you know what I mean? What are you gonna do? Like, that's just the reality of it. Like, we're in a different era of the NFL, and it's not. You said it perfectly, right? The core four that we constantly refer to as being the upper echelon of quarterbacks is, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Lamar, and you got one guy who's got 3, and then you got 3 guys that have none. It's just
Yeah.
it's hard, 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 hard to win Super Bowls. That's what makes Tom Brady so impressive. That's what makes Patrick Mahomes so impressive. That's what made Peyton Manning so impressive, was that they had multiples.
And even winning one. I mean, again, Andy Reid is an old man. I lived my entire childhood watching Andy Reid coach on Sundays in Philadelphia, and he won
Philadelphia, yeah.
none. He didn't win a single goddamn ring, not one.
And his teams were always so good too.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's like you go down the list. Kirk Cousins, veteran quarterback, no Super Bowls. I mean, the list goes on and on of guys who didn't win one. So that particular thing that I hear used to debunk LaFleur because him and Rodgers didn't close one of those years. Um, I understand it. I accept it as mostly kind of like respectfully low level talking points, but I'm not going to indulge it anymore as an argument because it's just not valid to me. Let's talk about why I believe that this guy is a top coach and why the lack of that conversation bothers me. Perfect microcosm of this is, and I already know the answer, but do you know whenever the coaches are playing each other, their teams are playing each other in a game, the 4 that I'm going to mention, they always
Of
do the
course.
cutaway in the broadcast booth
Yeah.
with the Washington
The
Redskins coaching
2013
staff. Yeah.
Washington Redskins, yeah, coaching tree.
And, it's
Yeah.
Sean McVay, it's Kyle Shanahan, it's Matt LaFleur, and it's Mike McDaniel. And it's always the same kind of conversation, right? At least let's just keep it to last season, or the last couple of seasons since, McDaniel's been with Miami as a head coach. It's always like, well, you got Sean McVay at the top of the list. You know, he won a Super Bowl. He turned the Rams franchise around. You got Kyle Shanahan, who runs the best system in the entire National Football League. And you've got Miami Mike, who is exciting, and he wears off-white sneakers and vapes on the sidelines and jokes around with reporters. And look at all that motion he runs. We've never seen anything like it in in all the years. You know, he runs motion on 80% of plays. It's revolutionary. And, you know, you even got Matt LaFleur there, who coaches the Packers. Anyway, back to the game. You know, it's like that's how it always goes. It goes that way every time. Yeah, and it's
so I had to double check because I was thinking you know, Raheem Morris was also on that staff, and so was Bobby Slowick. So now these are a couple more faces who will be on it next year. You know, now that Slowick is
and to give those guys their due, it's an excellent coaching tree. I'm not poo-pooing it.
Wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense if it was John Gruden that was at the head of that and not Jay Gruden?
Yes, way more sense.
Doesn't that feel like not fitting? It's like Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden was the coach with all these genius coaches underneath him, and it's just he's just like out here losing games.
Jay Gruden L. Yeah, they all got like second
Super
chances.
L.
They're all going to probably be
literally.
like Hall of Fame coaches when it's all said and done.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's interesting, right? You go down the list, and I know Sean McVay's won a ring, and I would put him at the top of the list. Kyle Shanahan has not closed.
No, he sure hasn't.
You know, as much as I do enjoy watching the Miami Dolphins, and frankly, my brother and I joke all the time. We love Mike McDaniel, right? Like, he's an exciting guy. He's funny, you know, all of that. But he hasn't made a playoff run even kind of. When we talk about Matt LaFleur, what bothers me is that he's never mentioned in the conversation with any of the top-tier coaches in the National Football League. His name is always left off. So we discussed, you know, the obvious lack of Super Bowl kind of being the chink in the armor that we use to devalue LaFleur. And the other major one is Aaron Rodgers, right? He's an Aaron Rodgers merchant. It's because of Aaron. We can't really evaluate him because of Aaron. But what's really interesting is, you know, Aaron Rodgers has been the starter for Green Bay well before Matt LaFleur got there. And when we talk about the 2 seasons leading up to Matt LaFleur being hired, which would be 2017, 2018, those were the 2 years before Matt LaFleur took over, right? And a gentleman named Mike McCarthy was their head coach. You guys might know him now as Dallas's head coach. Once upon a time, he won a ring with Green Bay. In 2017, McCarthy went 7-9 with the Green Bay Packers. And then in 2018, the Green Bay Packers went 6-9-1, which resulted in a mid-season firing of Mike McCarthy. And I don't know how many of you know this, but I assume most of you do. When a coach gets fired before a season ends, things are bad. Things are not okay. They're not mediocre. They're bad. And, you know, even prior to the last couple of bad seasons with Green Bay, the team went 15-1 in 2011, and that was the last time the team won at least 13 games with Mike McCarthy. They only did it once during the McCarthy tenure, actually twice. The first one was in 2007 with Brett Favre at quarterback. What's interesting about the backdrop of this is Matt LaFleur gets hired in 2019, and for 3 seasons in a row wins 13 games.
Yeah, it doesn't Aaron win 2 MVPs in that stretch too? Am I mistaken about that? Yeah,
back-to-back MVPs in 2020 and 21, I believe. So your situation that was, LaFleur took over this excellent, foolproof situation is not really real. Actually, he took over a team that was struggling immensely on defense, which has continued in the LaFleur era, with a slumping quarterback that we were all talking about. Is he a little over the hill? Is he a little washed? Did we see that one year from Aaron Rodgers where they won the Super Bowl and it's going to be a lot of empty calories? I mean, we know he's talented, but is he going to really do it again? Can they win? Can they compete? Then Mike McCarthy gets fired midseason, and that's the team that Matt LaFleur took over to go on and win 13 games 3 years in a row. That's impressive, and I can't Google this because I'm not nearly intelligent enough to know how, but I don't know ever a coach who took over a failing team at the time and won 13 games 3 years in a row. As far as I'm concerned, it's never happened. So to do that and to coach, a quarterback who was in middle age, slumping a bit, to back-to-back MVPs, which also happens hardly ever. We never see a guy go back-to-back in the MVP race, but that's how good Aaron and this offense was with LaFleur. Look at what Davante Adams did. Look at what Aaron Jones did. This guy can coach offense with the best of them. And I'm so tired of, on behalf of Packer fans and just football fans, his name not getting discussed in the pantheon of current coaches that are truly elite. The big test this year, in my opinion, he passed. We all wondered, coming off of 2 MVPs, coming off of these amazing seasons, multiple deep playoff runs. And again, I know that they didn't finish in the playoffs, but they still made a couple of NFC championship games. And really, largely defensively, I would say, were the reasons why those teams didn't win in the NFC championship game. For those of you wondering, just Google what Raheem Mostert did on the ground in the NFC championship game a couple of years ago when he was with San Francisco against Green Bay. It was an absolute murdering. So, again, these teams did make deep playoff runs. They just didn't get to a Super Bowl. Aaron departs. They have this really good run together in Green Bay. And, the big question is, what are they going to do with Love? How's Love going to look? All these conversations around Jordan Love and kind of preying on LaFleur's downfall while he was an Aaron Rodgers merchant. Wait, you and I know this. I mean, we're Lions fans. That was the talk amongst Lions. Oh, wait till they get rid of Aaron. Oh, boy, LaFleur's going to get exposed. Well, actually, not really. Turns out he just kind of ran it back again with a first-year starter and a team full of rookies. And that offense was really good. Again, I know I referenced it. If you have any questions about what this offense can do when it's clicking, just watch the Dallas game. For him to do that last year with that team is a testament to how good this coach is and how good this coach has been. Again, this whole idea, and it's again, I don't blame it. It's just casual sports fans, but it's like, how did they go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now a new guy who looks so good? Well, it's not because Jordan Love is that good. No offense. It's because Matt LaFleur is that good. The reason why Jordan Love looks so good right now is because Matt LaFleur is that good. The reason why Jordan Love is completing passes and making reads and calling audibles and throwing the ball the way Aaron Rodgers did with the flick of the wrist and the off-balance throws. He looks like Rodgers out there. It's because of studying under Rodgers and having Matt LaFleur run this offense. And I wanted to do a bit, because I don't ever see it discussed, about this coach and my respect for this coach and just kind of my admiration for how good this coach has been. And, the whole conversation kind of reminds me of that Isaiah Thomas clip from Last Dance where he's like, I fit the criteria, I just wasn't selected, right?
I met the criteria to be selected, but I wasn't.
It's like every year, he's got the young, he's young, handsome, charismatic, runs a high level offense. And we never discuss him. And I don't really understand why he's overlooked constantly in these conversations. But, in closing, something I would like to see, maybe my bold prediction will be that this is the year that he wins Coach of the Year. Because I think this team's going to be really good. And without Aaron there is no more debate about what this coach can do and the kind of offense that he runs, because it's here. And it's been here the whole time, by the way.